Before we get started, I just want to take a second to sink in the fact that this bullshit-ass game is now 5 years old. I was a junior in high school and happy when this shit came out, and now I'm a college dropout and depressed. Ain't it crazy how time works? Anyways, Sonic has had a really rough transition into the 8th generation of consoles, with Lost World and Rise of Lyric on the Wii U, and Forces TSR and Colors Ultimate on Xbox One, PS4, Switch, and PC, all being pretty mid to awful, in some more specific cases, games. This blue fuck has been struggling a lot recently. But on one fated day, that's not what that says. In one fated day, still not what that says. On one fated day, that's what that says. In 2021, we were hit with a Sonic Central for Sonic's 30th anniversary, and at the end, we were hit with a CG trailer for the next mainline game. And it didn't tell us a damn thing. Neat. Near the end of the year at the Game Awards, we got another trailer drop for the game, and this time we saw actual gameplay footage. It's not what that says. Actual in-game footage. That's what that says. And it was just Sonic standing there with a bunch of scenery shots, but at the very least it looked kind of pretty. That's something, right? Right. After this teaser, we finally got the name drop of the game, and it was called Sonic Frontiers, which honestly sounded pretty cool to me. This was going to be Sonic's first attempt at the open world genre, and this could either go really well or really bad depending on how it's executed. And seeing as how this team's last game was, my faith in this was really, really low. Fast forward to June 2022, and IGN of all channels was tasked with giving us a month's worth of coverage on the game, and we actually got some real gameplay this time. And to put it as nicely as possible, that shit was fucking awful. Doodle butter, garbage, trash, any fucking synonym for the word. It looked terrible. This game was already having a rough pre-launch journey up to this point as it is, and this just didn't help it in the slightest. At least at the beginning of the month, because near the end, they kind of picked it back up with much better looking gameplay, and the game was actually starting to look pretty appealing. Why they didn't just start with this instead of posting what they posted before that, we'll never probably ever get an answer, and it's just fucking boggling my goddamn mind, but you know what? We move regardless. After several more months of pretty banger promotional trailers, the announcement, what the fuck is that? The announcement of Ian Flynn writing the story, the reveal of the opening and ending songs being fucking bangers, the announcement, that's not what that says, and announcing actual fire customization options, the game is now out. So what do I think of it? Let's take a walk and find out. But before we get into all that, this video is sponsored by your older sister applying oil to my chiseled, peanut butter complexioned skin, while your best friend feeds me grapes in a Speedo. So if you're okay with that, let's go. Sonic Frontiers was released on November 8th, 2022 for both current and last-gen consoles. The game features our local blue fast man getting sent to the Starfall Islands while on a journey to find the Chaos Emeralds with Tails and Amy. When he wakes up, he has nothing but his wit, courage, and a deeper voice to get him through the adventure he's about to go on. As stated earlier, this is Sonic's first attempt at the open world genre. On paper, the idea of Sonic running around an open field and going as fast as you can sounds amazing, and this game 100% delivers on that. But let's take things one step at a time. Let's start with the biggest worry everyone had for this game, Sonic's control. Or at least I think that's the biggest worry. I don't remember. To be perfectly blunt, Sonic Team has been struggling a lot in the controls department for the last decade or so in terms of Sonic's control. That's redundant as hell. Whether he was moving like a tank, or like Mario, or not at all, there was always something going wrong. In this game, the developers just said fuck it and gave you the free reign to alter how you want the negative control. His max speed, his turning sensitivity, and more. That's so fucking fun! Let's be frank, everyone has their own ideal way for how they want Sonic to control, so giving the player the freedom to make this decision for themselves is a go-to gameplay move, and this isn't the only one. Sonic's traversal in this game is smooth as shit. Butter with a Butter would probably be a better word for that. He has his parkour abilities from Lost World, and they're like actually functioning this time. The parkour in Lost World was mad fucked, and it was not fun to play around with whatsoever. But in this game, it's clean and fun to chain with other parkour moves. He can run up walls, he can climb them. Hey, wait a minute. And they brought back the trick system from Generations, and I've been waiting for this shit to return for like the longest fucking time, dog. It adds so much more style and personality to Sonic in the game. Speaking of style and personality, Sonic is probably the most expressive here that he's been since Generations. Between the trick system, the return of his idle animations, and the expressive shit like this, my nigga is back. I don't know who this lifeless, dead inside loser is. I'm gonna keep shitting on Forces, by the way, but I'm glad he's gone. Continuing on with this talk about style, we can customize Sonic's look in this game. He has gloves, shoes, as well as full-on outfits like this Rathalos armor from the Monster Hunter collab, this shit is mad cool by the way, and others just like this. If you sign up for the newsletter, you will get a free download code for the soap shoes, and like, as we saw from my last Sonic video, I don't like Adventure 2, however, this is definitely a cool addition to the game among other fire cosmetics like these adventure wears, gloves, and shoes. Ain't that so cool? Unfortunately, those options are the only ones in the game at the moment, which is seriously a huge missed opportunity in my opinion. We could have gotten shit like the Rider shoes, the Caliburn Gauntlet, what the fuck? Gauntlet? Hell, they could have even given us an Adventure 1 Dreamcast model swap like they did for Mario in Odyssey with Mario 64, or the Crash one that they did in Crash 4. So hopefully they add more in the future. Now, of course, there's the elephant in the room, the lack of true momentum in this game. Now, I'm gonna keep it a $150 with y'all. Am I disappointed at the lack of actual momentum? Yes, I am. Is it a deal breaker? No, it's not. But I can't ignore my disappointment, however. Sonic's whole foundation was momentum-based platforming, which was carried over into the adventure games. The idea of being able to spin dash jump off a high heights just to go airborne would have been cool, but we didn't get that here. I will say, there is a slight form of momentum with the boost in this game. Running off of a cliff with enough speed will give Sonic some serious airtime, but it just doesn't feel the same. Also, that whole serious airtime thing is also a sometimes, because Sonic likes to cling to walls like he's channeling his inner Peter Parker and just start running along them, or running down them, or running up them. But you know what? What do I know? Shit about fuck, that's what. The swag talk just continues because this game gives our blue fuck actual combat this time around. On some Spider-Man or God of War type shit, Sonic has the skill tree where you can use skill points to unlock skills for the nigga to use in combat. I said skill 3 times in that sentence. In terms of basic attacks, the homing attack is back as per usual. Sonic took a page out of Shadow's book this time around and started doing a flurry of punches and kicks in a combo. The stomp and the drop dash are also back in this game, and this marks the first time that we've had the drop dash in 3D in an official game, and it's a mixed bag, but it can do damage to enemies for as long as you're still rolling, so I guess it's something. Maybe. Within the skill tree, we have a variety of attacks. This rush of kicks, this buzzsaw looking move, fucking key blast, this goofy ass spin move from the IGN showcase looking a lot less goofy, among others. By using the bumpers on the controller, Sonic can also dodge incoming attacks. And just like how I'd love to do the shit in Spider-Man, I love the fact that timing it perfectly gets you well, perfect dodge, because it's in the name. And holding down the bumpers at the same time allows this nigga to fucking parry attacks, which leaves room for you to do extra damage during this witch time ass effect. That's so fucking fun! I never would have thought I'd see the day where I get to fucking perfect dodge and Royal Guard in a Sonic game and have it be satisfying to pull off, but here we are, in a game where I can do both. And they're satisfying to pull off. The joke's running on E today, alright? I skipped out on my morning coffee. You can also upgrade Sonic's defense and attack by finding these seeds littered throughout the islands or by completing challenges to open up the map, which I'll elaborate on later. Once you have these seeds, you can take them to a Hermit Coco and he'll increase the level of both. The blue ones are for defense and the red ones are for attack. Both can be leveled up to 99, and the same can be said for Sonic's speed and ring cap. These get leveled up by collecting Cocos and bringing them to the Elder Coco. I hope you didn't plan on going anywhere anytime soon, because unlike the Hermit, which he levels up everything at once, this old ass nigga is taking his sweet ass time, and you have to do things one at a time. Okay, but why though? Anyway, the combat in this game is really fucking smooth and I honestly love it. All of the different abilities you have access to mix up how you want to go about certain encounters is really cool addition. I really hope they keep this system going forward because I really get a kick out of fucking these niggas up. I promise I'm funnier than this on a regular basis. I swear I am. Speaking of the niggas I like fucking up, that sounded really weird to say out loud. The enemy variety in this game is on a different level compared to previous games. Gone are the days of the 4 different types of garden gnomes just standing there not doing shit, and now we have, like, actual opposition. You obviously have your basic fodder enemies that can be taken out with just a basic homing attack, but then you have more to work with. A giant flying squid.
If you don't stand so close, you're making me claustrophobic.
What does claustrophobic mean?
It means he's afraid of Santa Claus.
No, it doesn't.
Ho, ho, ho!
Stop it, Patrick, you're scaring him!
This nigga from Shadow of the Colossus, this big nigga that channels Sonic's pinball roots, an Orby, this ninja that Twitter lost their minds over, you fucking weirdos, among plenty others. There's always something new to fight while you're exploring the islands, and I just cannot get enough of them. The caterpillar can actually go fuck off though, but nothing, and I mean not a damn thing, comes anywhere close to what goes on in these boss battles. At the end of almost each island, Sonic is met with one of the Titans. In these fights, Sonic goes super, and you get a chance to go up against the Titans, and it is some of the most out-of-this-world shit that Sonic has done in a while. Getting the hang of their patterns, watching the mid-fight cutscenes, the music, which we'll talk about later, brings these fights to life and gives them a whole new atmosphere compared to previous boss encounters in the series. And these are just the regular boss fights. Like, damn, my nigga, if these shits go this hard, I wonder what the final boss is gonna be like. Sorry I asked. So far, just off of the controls, combat, and enemy variety alone, this game is such a fucking upgrade from Forces, and it's almost embarrassing and honestly unreal that this game's team is the same one that made that garbage, and it boggles my mind. But like, fuck all that for a second. We need to talk about the Starfall Islands themselves. Gotta be honest, this is the part that had me the most worried. Coming off of games like Spider-Man and Miles, I've played other open world games, my nigga. These are the first ones that came into my head. Their open worlds might have just been New York, but they added so much more personality to them and made them feel so lively and fun to traverse through. And again, given that the last game that we had was this bullshit, you could hopefully understand the fact that I was worried. The entire time in my head leading up to release, I was just pondering, thinking, wondering, will these niggas be able to pull off something like this? Will they be able to make the islands fun to explore and not just boring, empty, pathetic sandboxes with nothing to do but run around? And the answer is a wholehearted yes. They did it. The Starfall Islands consist of 5 islands. Kronos, which is a grassy field with ancient ruins. Ares, which is a desert area with oases, I fucking hate that word, more ancient ruins and broken down weapons. Chaos, which is a volcano area with a mixture of what looks like snow and glass, as well as destroyed Forces Death Egg robots. Rhea, which is a grassy field with ancient ruins. And lastly, we have Oranos, which is a grassy field with ancient ruin. I know what the fuck is going on here. So, as you can clearly see, Rhea and Oranos ended up having the same aesthetics and even the same music as Kronos, and I'm genuinely not a fan of this shit whatsoever. How hard would it have been to make an ice theme world, or even like shit, an abandoned city? I would have them rather use 3 islands instead of trying to artificially pad out game time by just taking Kronos and chopping it up not once, but twice to fill up the other 2 islands. Aside from that nonsense, the Starfall Islands are genuinely fun to explore and run through. Well, most of them are. The 5 islands have a variety of challenges spread out across the map that helps you open up the area for further exploration. These challenges can range from pattern puzzles, jump rope, getting to the goal in a certain amount of time, doing a certain amount of damage on this dummy, among others. None of these challenges are all that brain taxing. In fact, some of them are actually pretty brain dead, but it's nothing I'll lose sleep over. Though this light pillar puzzle can actually go eat a dick. On top of the challenges, there are also a couple of collectibles that you can find as well. On top of the seeds and the cocos, I said on top twice, you can also find memory tokens that correspond, that's what the fuck that says, to whichever of Sonic's friends is on that particular island. Amy for Kronos, Knuckles for Ares, Tails for Chaos, and no one for Rhea, go figure, and the new villain stage for Oranos, but we'll talk about her later. Bringing these memory tokens to Sonic's pals grants you with a cutscene that has the 2 talking about something in regards to either their past or the islands themselves. These scenes are very nice, but once again, I'll elaborate on that later. There's also these purple coins scattered throughout the world. Collecting them allows you to go fish with the man of the hour Big. And surprise surprise, this time the fishing doesn't make me want to harm somebody. This minigame is actually the most useful piece of side content in the game. Fishing rewards you with these tokens that you can use to trade for different items. Seeds, cocos, experience points, portal gears, vault keys, memory you can see why this shit is so good, right? You can even get these egg memos that give you very interesting and also very needed bits of lore from Eggman himself. And I just cannot express how much I love these shits, bro. Mentioning shit like Maria, the Babylonians, the disgusting black creature, among other bits of Sonic's lore that just haven't been touched upon in a fucking decade, and I'm here for all of this. Why this shit isn't just integrated into the actual plot through mandatory cutscenes is beyond me, but hey, it's a step forward nonetheless. All in all, Big's fishing is fucking broken. Once I hit Arenos and I just realized that it was fucking Kronos all over again, I just went fishing until I had enough Volt Keys to unlock the Chaos Emeralds. I didn't want to do all that shit all over again. I was tired. Speaking of Volt Keys and Portal Gears, these are the last bit of collectibles that the game wants you to find. Volt Keys are needed to access the Chaos Emeralds, which are spread out throughout the islands, except you, and you get Volt Keys from either finding them randomly in the islands, or by going into cyberspace. You get access to cyberspace through portals, and you get to the portals to find the portal gears, and the gears are found by, once again, either finding them randomly or defeating the Guardians, which are always guaranteed to drop one. Hoo boy, okay, so Frontiers has a very fun and engaging gameplay loop once you take into account everything in terms of Sonic's traversal, controls, combat abilities, the exploration aspect, and the rewards you get from just doing everything. This game is really fun and fulfilling, to put it very plain and simple. Now, something that isn't fun or fulfilling are the cyberspace stages. Think of these as optional traditional platforming levels, and I'm so glad they're optional because these are legitimately some of the worst traditional Sonic levels I think I've ever played in my life. Still better than Forces though. The problem with these stages aren't even the stages themselves. Those are just reused level designs like Metal, Harbor, fucking Windmill Isle Act 1, Skyrail, and a couple original ones. The problem isn't even the fact that the fucking level aesthetics are all just Green Hill, Chemical Plant, Sky Sanctuary all over again, because we definitely needed that, and one original city. The problem is the fucking controls. Sonic's control in cyberspace is not the same as it is in the open world. He doesn't have a control slider for these stages either, which seriously doesn't make any sense to me. But the bullshit doesn't even stop there. The controls are so fucking stiff, bro. It feels like I'm fighting them shits more often than not, and it's fucking annoying. What makes it even worse is that these stages have a set of 4 challenges. Getting an S rank, completing the stage with a certain amount of rings depending on the stage, getting all the red rings, and get this, getting to the goal. Actually, you know what? This shit's probably still challenging because of how fucking shit the controls are. It took me 15 fucking tries to get that line right, and I hope whoever wrote this shit gets water on their sleeves the next time they wash their hands. Cyberspace is definitely the weakest part of the game for me, and it needed the most work. I don't know what the issue was or how this happened, but it's annoying that they couldn't get these controls right or implement the open world ones. Like, all this really does is make me want to go back and play the original stages, and that's saying a lot given how I feel about Xeno. So hopefully, if we get another concept like this for the next game, they start to try to fix this and get it right. On the topic of reused level designs in cyberspace and the reusing of Kronos' everything for Rhea and Arenos, I am so tired of this shit. It feels like they're stuck in the habit of banking on nostalgia to win over fans when we've already said countless times that this shit doesn't work anymore, and we're tired of Green Hill and all these returning stages. And in the case of Rhea and Arenos, this just screams time crunch and a need to pad out the game. We could have just kept it at 3 islands like I said before if this was going to be the case. If we're going to continue on this train of talking about the things that I didn't like, I'm seriously not a fan of the random bits of level geometry spread out throughout the islands. It looks so out of place, and it makes me wish that the platforming bits were more naturally integrated into the world, like vines for grind rails or mushrooms for springs on Kronos or some shit. Just like something more natural. It's a small gripe though. With everything being put together, and despite the shit that I do have an issue with, the gameplay experience in this game is just so fucking amazing, dog. I haven't had this much fun with a Sonic Team game in 11 motherfucking years. Mania was amazing, of course, but Sonic Team hasn't had a banger in over a decade, which is annoying to think about. As I mentioned before, the gameplay loop is extremely fun and engaging to me on the Starfall Islands, and they're just such beautiful places to explore and run around in when it's actually present, but we'll talk about that another time. Speaking of beautiful, let's move on to the presentation. To put it lightly, this game's graphics are fucking amazing. The way everything looks is truly next-gen looking in my opinion, and it's so vibrant and pleasing to the eyes. I think we finally got a game that looks better than Unleashed. Only took them 14 years, but hey, better late than never. The music. The music, the music, the music. To put it as simply as possible, the music in this game is so fucking fantastic. The cyberspace themes just are such bangers, bruh. But that doesn't even begin to mention how hard the boss themes go. Some of, if not the best boss themes in the entire franchise.
It's time to face your fears when your time has come and gone. I'll be the one to carry on, and you can throw me to the wolves, 'cause now you're under fear. So stop, we're on a mission, overdriving over all the competition, counting up the damage when it's done. We can't pretend to listen, sorry if it puts you in an imposition. We won't stop until the battle's won. Will the whole world know your name when we dance with destiny? I've been there and I've seen it. I'm never gonna stop believing. You'll find your flame.
The boss fights already go hard enough as it is, but these songs just help everything feel more cinematic and grand. The voice direction in this game has seen an upgrade. Roger is my favorite Sonic voice, and I think he's at his best in this game. Amy, Tails, Knuckles, Eggman, and the newcomer, which we'll talk about later, all also sound great, and I'm especially surprised with Knuckles' performance, because I don't really like Dave Mitchell's take on the character in TSR, but here he sounds really good. And I feel like this is the type of voice direction that we need going forward, as opposed to...
I am not weak.
or,
None of this is good, Vector. That's why it's called war.
or,
Your plan will end like all your plans do, with you sitting in a pile of busted robot parts wondering how you failed so badly.
I think you guys get the point. Last thing I want to talk about in terms of the presentation are the cutscene animations. I'm a little mixed on these. A large majority of the cutscenes are animated pretty damn good, and probably the best that we've seen in the franchise in a while. I've said that a lot in this video. While the others are these stock animations that most games do when it comes to smaller scale scenes. I don't know. While a lot of games do this method to save time, I wish Sonic Team would have tried to go the full 9 yards with this, but hopefully we'll see that in the next game. Speaking of the cutscenes, we can finally move on to talking about the story. It looks like Sonic Team and friends actually wanted to try to make a good story this time, for the first time in 14 years, because in my personal opinion, this is one of the best stories that we've gotten out of the franchise. So like I said, however many minutes ago at this point, Sonic Frontiers follows Sonic after he, Tails, and Amy show up on the Starfall Islands in search of the Chaos Emeralds. After these niggas are sucked up into cyberspace, Sonic gets out and is now tasked with trying to find his friends while figuring out what's going on. We come to find out that the Starfall Islands were home to an ancient civilization called, well, the Ancients. They all have a resemblance to our buddy Chaos and also have a spiritual connection to the Cocos, who die off once they fulfill their final purpose in life, which isn't fucked up at all. This game's story has Ian Flynn written all over it. The way he actually plays up the mystery and makes me want to know more about what's going on the islands and the Ancients that sits so well with me. This carries over into the dialogue scenes with Amy, Tails, and Knuckles as Sonic has actual conversations with meaning with his friends this time around. The dialogue feels so natural, and I personally love the course correction that they do here. Amy no longer feels like just a girl that's along for the ride, Knuckles no longer feels like a dumb nigga and he actually remembers that he had a job to do, and Tails no longer seems like a whiny bitch. Even to the point of getting on himself and calling out the fact that he was being a real bitch-ass nigga for the last couple of games, and I wonder why. The characters even go so far as to remember the shit that happened to them in the past and make mention to it, whether it be them using screenshots from Sonic 3 and Knuckles to act as a flashback, or Sonic bringing up how Tails saved Station Square in Adventure 1 while trying to cheer him up. Shit, fucking Nichols over here mentioned Super Knuckles again, and that took me for a loop. It's just, it feels like everything actually takes place in a shared universe again, and the continuity that they add to this is just, it feels like it's like a breath of fresh air. I just didn't think that we'd ever get back to a point like this, but we did. This is a little less significant to the overall story, but there's little flavor text spread out throughout the islands where Sonic will mention characters that aren't there, but should be, except this guy.
I bet Zavok would feel right at home here. Wonder how he's doing. Terrible, I hope.
And then he kind of just like
I bet Tangle would love climbing around these ruins.
confirms that Tangle exists in the game universe, which now opens up the gateway for other IDW characters like Whisper, Ruffle, that's not what his name is, Rumble, that's not his name either, Ruff, Tumble, and others to be in the main games. That's so fucking Whisper is one of my favorite characters in the Sonic franchise, so the fact that we basically got a subtle confirmation that she exists in the games now makes me very happy. Plus, she could be Izuka's excuse to add back the Wisp, because you know that shit hurt when he didn't have them in this game. Speaking of the characters, the newcomer this time around is my homegirl Sage. Y'all know what I'm about to say. It's embarrassing how much of a better written character she is than Infinite, and like every other villain from the last decade, she's a very sympathetic character who was created by Eggman to help uncover the secrets of the Ancients and murk Sonic, but watching him in his interactions with Amy, Tails, and Knuckles makes her want to understand him and the Fat Man on a much deeper level. They even try to go the route of trying to have a father-daughter relationship between Eggman and Sage, and I thought that was really nice. If it sounded like I was running out of breath in that last take, it's because I had a flow going and I didn't want to ruin it. Overall, I feel as though getting Ian Flynn on board to write for the games was the best decision that these niggas have made in the last decade. I've been saying that so much this video, but they just did so much right with this game. The stories have the potential to get back on track to be more prominent and well written, which is something I've been wanting for a while. If you can even see in my goddamn Sonic game video, I mentioned how important it was for me to have a really good story for that game. My only real gripe with the story is how I wish there was more of it. I prefer more story-driven games like Spider-Man over more open-ended ones like Breath of the Wild, and Frontiers definitely takes a more open-ended approach, which isn't a bad thing per se, but I just played and beat Tales of Arise right before playing this game, so the whiplash from going from a very heavily story-driven one to one that's not as much was very noticeable. But at the end of the day, what more can be said? Sonic Frontiers is an amazing game that really shows what Sonic Team is capable of if Sega learn how to hush the fuck up sometimes and just let them do what they have to do. The game's not perfect, obviously. There's quite a few things I'm not a fan of, but the highs definitely outweigh the lows for me. I can see the vision of... that's not what that says. I can see the vision with the foundation they've set with this game, and I hope they can deliver on giving us something even better next time around. The quality of this game kind of pisses me off in a way, because just comparing it to Forces again alone is like comparing sitting on a nice comfy couch to standing on a pile of Legos barefoot. I used Forces a lot as an example in this video since it's the most recent game before Frontiers dropped, but I did it for a reason. People don't understand the issue others tend to have with Forces when it comes to very obvious things that have been spoken about for the last 5 years since the game came out, but I really hope that this game made it more clear. Forces lacked any kind of polish, ambition, or care. The game is lazily put together, and it seriously did not look like it took 4 years of work. Granted, it wasn't, but even then, they should have waited, but instead, gotta rush it out the door before it was ready. Frontiers is literally everything Forces wanted to be and more, and it makes me mad because these niggas have the capability to do shit like this, and we had time wasted on this piece of garbage. And let me be the first to say, I didn't even have faith in this game at first. That first gameplay footage was unpleasantly substandard, and I, regardless of what niggas think, had every right to be skeptical because it bears repeating. The first bit of gameplay we got for Forces was exactly what we got in the final game, and Sega and Sonic Team did nothing during that time period between then and June 2022 to prove that this would be any different. Granted, yes, I ended up being wrong and a nigga is happy about that, but what I'm saying is, at the time, I had every right to feel how I did. Moral of the story, Frontiers made me hate Forces even more. Fuck that game. Okay, rant over, back to what I was saying before. Frontiers is the perfect foundation to create an amazing next decade of main games, and I'm pleased to say that I reached a point where I feel like Sonic Team is capable of pulling this off again. There was something I was going back and forth with in my head leading up to release. Will Frontiers be unleashed as my favorite Sonic game? And I say this wholeheartedly, yes it has. Like it says in the video title and in the thumbnail, these niggas done went ahead and did it. Welcome back, Sonic. Please don't fuck us over again. I will drown your ass, you bitch ass nigga. As for what's next, I'll be sending off 2022 with my review on Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Once those games come out and I finish them, and I've been looking forward to them too. So hopefully, you folks stick around for that. That was low-key me not giving you a choice because I will drown your bitch asses too. Fuck around and find out.
Endless, despair.